Howdy, I'm Ryan Jackson, and this is the project for Horticulture 201. We're looking at crop management of the strawberry. My partners are Lani, Autrey, Mason Mann, Blake Braun, and Alex Evensen. So, overview of the strawberry, we'll begin with that. Its scientific name is Fragaria x amassa, a hybrid species that belongs to the rose family. This modern strawberry originated in Europe during the 18th century when two wild species were crossed, and today strawberries are actually one of the most economically important fruits. Cultivated in over 76 countries, but as of now, China leads global production, followed by the United States, Mexico, Turkey, and then Spain. And then beyond fresh consumption, strawberries are really vital to industries producing jams, desserts, flavorings, making them both culturally beloved and then economically significant. And also, they're just a very tasty fruit that are store bought as is. Climate requirements for the strawberry, they definitely thrive in temperate climates. The ideal temperature range is between about 60 and 80 degrees Fahrenheit when in the growing process of the crop, or that calculates to about 15 to 27 degrees Celsius. Cooler nights are especially beneficial to the crop as they help enhance the sweetness and flavor of the fruit. And then with property variety selection, strawberries can actually be grown across USDA zones 3 through 10, which means basically they adapt to a wide range of regions and they are an easy crop to grow. So matching the right cultivar to the local climate is very key to a successful production for the strawberry. Soil conditions. Strawberries require well-drained soil to prevent root rot, but the soil must also retain enough moisture to support the growth of the crop. So loamy soils that are rich in organic matter are very ideal here. And the optimal pH range is slightly acidic. It's between 5.5 and 6.5. And farmers also have often amend soils with compost or sand. They do this basically just to improve fertility and drainage for the crop. So proper soil management here ensures healthy roots, abundant flowering, and ultimately high yields. Thank you.
Propagation methods for strawberry plants, which is basically the making of a new plant. There's three main methods. One of them is runners. It's the most common one, is where the stem grows out from the main plant. When it touches the soil, a new plant grows there, which is exactly identical to the parent plant. You can see an example of a runner on the right hand side right there. Another way is plant division, which is splitting the crowns or the roots of the plants and replanting them. This works for small gardens but isn't used widely. One of the last methods is seeds, which is strawberry seeds. The problem though when planting these is they usually are unpredictable and don't keep the parent's quality or traits, so it's just a different plant altogether. And one of the most common methods for commercial is, well, runners. It's standard in the industry because it produces consistent plants and identical fruit quality and predictable yields. Next up is water and nutrient management. Uh, Strawberries like a slightly acidic soil, so it's like a pH of around 5.5 to 6.5. And farmers test the soil and adjust it with lime or sulfur. They also add compost to improve soil structure and hold water. For nutrients, nitrogen helps the plants grow. That's one of the main ones. Phosphorus and potassium are the other two that help the roots and the fruit quality. And calcium is important to keep the berries firm. So, irrigation, water management. Strawberries need to have consistent watering, especially when flowering and making fruit. Too little wall makes the berries too small, and too much can cause diseases. That's why farmers use drip irrigation. It waters the roots directly, keeps the leaves dry, and reduces diseases. And they add mulch to help hold the soil moisture and control weeds. Some farms also use fertigation, which adds nutrients through the drip system so the plants get the exact amount of water they need. You can see an example of that on the top right. That's not a strawberry plant, but they lay that pipe down and they send nutrients through it and they drip it. And in the bottom right hand side is where you see the effects of the soil pH on strawberries for the nutrient availability.
Pest and disease control in strawberries. Strawberries are susceptible to insects and fungal pathogens, which makes management one of the most essential parts of growing this crop. Why pest and disease control matters. Strawberries grow very low to the ground and need consistent moisture, which creates perfect conditions for pest and disease. As a result, problems can spread quickly and cause major losses. Without proper management, growers can see reduced yield, lower fruit quantity, and overall plant stress. Major insect pest. There are several insect pests that commonly affect strawberries. Spider mites suck plant juices and cause bronzing and stunt growth. Aphids feed on young leaves and also transmit viruses. Thrips damage the fruit directly by causing scarring. Strawberry root weevils cause larvae that feed on roots, weakening the plant. And slugs and snails chew holes in the fruit, especially during wet weather. IPM strategies for insect pest. To manage insect pests, growers use an integrated pest management system. This starts with monitoring the field regularly and using sticky traps to detect early populations. Cultural practices help reduce pressure, like removing weeds, improving airflow, and avoiding excess nitrogen. Biological control is also essential, such as using ladybeetles to control aphids and predatory mites to reduce spider mites populations. Chemical controls are used only when necessary, and typically these are insecticide soaps or targeted sprays that avoid harboring beneficial insects. Major diseases. Strawberries are also affected by several diseases. Gray mold is the most common and spreads quickly in cool and wet weather. Anthracnose causes dark, sunken lesions on fruit. Powdery mildew leaves a white fungal coating on the leaves and reduces photosynthesis. Vacillium wilt is a soil brune disease that can cause plants to collapse, and several leaf spot diseases show up as small brown or purple spots, especially in humid conditions. Disease management strategies. Disease management strategies focus on prevention. One of the most critical steps in sanitation, which means removing infected leaves on fruit, improving airflow through proper spacing, and pruning helps plants dry faster, reducing fungal growth. Drip irrigation is preferred because it keeps water out the leaves. Mulching helps prevent soil from splashing onto fruit, a significant way fungal spores spread. And fungicides are used preventively during wet or humid periods when disease risk is high. Summary. Overall, effective strawberry management relies on combining multiple strategies rather than relying on a single one. Prevention is always the priority, and plants should be monitored regularly. Biological controls help reduce the need for chemicals, while cultural practices create an environment less favorable to pests and diseases. Chemical sprays are used only when necessary and only in a targeted way. By integrating these methods, growers can protect both the crop and the environment.
Next, I'm going to explain why and how pruning strawberries is an important part of getting a strong, healthy harvest. First, pruning really helps improve fruit size and overall yield. The exact method you use depends on your strawberry variety, how you're growing them, and your local conditions. The main goal is to support a strong mother plant with healthy rhizomes. Since runners can drain energy, removing extra runners helps keep the mother plant productive. Some plants can produce over 100 daughter plants in one season, so controlling those runners is a key understanding unless you're intentionally propagating new plants. How to prune. Now, when it comes to pruning methods, there are several approaches. One of the most common is runner removal. Unless you're planning to grow new plants from them, you should cut off runners as soon as you see them during the growing season. Clearing dense canopies is also useful. Removing some of the lower leaves improves airflow and can boost fruit quality. After harvest, thinning the plants so they're spaced about 6 to 8 inches apart helps maintain a healthy bed. It's also important to remove older woody plants because strawberries generally stop producing good fruit after 3 to 5 years. And for younger plants, especially day neutral varieties, taking off the early fruit helps the plant conserve energy and grow stronger. Top tips for pruning. Understanding your strawberry variety can make pruning much easier. June bearing strawberries produce the most runners, so they require the most pruning. Day neutral strawberries have the longest growing season, which means you'll be removing runners for a long period of time. Overbearing varieties don't create many runners, but usually give good fruit for about 2 years. Pruning can also help you create new plants. Instead of composting all the runners, you can pot some of the daughter plants and grow a larger patch for future harvest. Flower pruning is another technique. Removing first year flowers on June bearing strawberries might delay fruiting, but it helps the plant develop better and increases next year's yield. Your planting method also affects how much pruning you'll need to do. In matted rows, runners can root freely, so pruning isn't as frequent. Space rows systems offer better growing conditions but require more careful runner control, and hill systems require removing all runners entirely. And finally, even with proper pruning, strawberries still need nutrients. Fertilizing helps support healthy growth and keeps your plants productive year after year.
So we're going to go over strawberry harvest and post-harvest management. We're going to focus on the overview of the optimal harvest, from the timing and storage practices, when, how, and where to store it and harvest it, and then just how to maintain proper quality. It requires extreme precision from the field to the final transport and then eventually to the consumers. As for the harvest timing and method, we're going to harvest the strawberries when they're fully red, as they don't further ripen after they're picked, so there's no need to pick green ones as they're going to stay green even after you pick them. We're going to pick them early morning for firmness and reduce field heat so it's not so hot. Strawberries are cooler, and with the dew it also helps keep them cool. And then we're going to handle them gently, place fruit into shallow containers to avoid bruising. Strawberries are kind of squishy, so you don't want to put them in a heavy container and have a lot of weight on top of them, just like smaller containers. So how often should you harvest strawberries? So you should harvest them every 1 to 3 days during the peak season. This helps to maintain good quality, keeps the plant strong with the proper amount of harvest in between. And then workers should snap the berries at the stem. So if they snap them too low, it'll actually damage the strawberry on like the actual flesh part. And then whereas you could just break it off higher up and that would be fine. And then obviously sort out the damaged ones because they're no good to sell. And then the overripe ones immediately gone because they'll be spoiled in the container too early. After harvest, how do we keep them cool and store them? So they're going to immediately be cooled, pre-cool within 1 hour of harvest. So these ideal temperatures are anywhere from 32 to 34 degrees Fahrenheit with a 90 to 95% relative humidity. And then a cold, humid storage slows respiration and mold development, and it makes these strawberries last a lot longer.
So here I found a chart comparing shelf life to average storage temperature. And as you can see here, only a slight increase in temperature from 10 to 15 degrees can drastically decrease the shelf life many days. And that's just inefficient, and it leads to increased costs and unable to get to the customers in time. And as you can see, strawberries rapidly deteriorate at warm temperatures, and then being able to maintain a low temperature can greatly extend shelf life. And then cold chain consistency is essential, basically from straight from harvest to the trucks to the producer, keeping it all cold. Lastly, we have transportation and market delivery. Just as in the cold storage, these trucks also have to be cold, maintain that cold chain integrity all throughout distribution, back from the farm to storage, and then eventually to the trucks, and then to your local stores. And then airflow should remain unobstructed around containers for cooling. If they're stacked on top of each other or in the very corner, they easily get warm and damp and not proper airflow. And then a typical shelf life is anywhere from 5 to 7 days when stored and transported properly.